Well, welcome everyone to this first meetup of 2022. Welcome to Data for Good Calgary, and we're thrilled to have everyone here to start off the year and to launch our micro project initiative. Tony will be doing the bulk of the presentation, but I have a few slides up front for those that are kind of new to Data for Good. So Tony, maybe just next slide. Yeah, so we'll be covering off a bit of an overview and then going into quite a bit of detail as to what this initiative looks like and how we're rolling it out. We have recruited and onboarded some project coordinators to help us with this. We'll then have an open Q&A to answer your questions about this. And then kind of most important towards the end is we'll be brainstorming and thinking about new project ideas. And then we're actually going to be transferring from the Zoom platform over to the remote platform, where that gives us an ability to have tables set up and project ideas to be discussed at the various tables. So we'll fill you in on all that as we go through. So Data for Good. So we're all volunteers, and we want to use our passion and skills for data for social good. Our aim really is to work with nonprofit and social organizations to leverage their data for impact in the community. So we bring together, the nonprofit and social organizations that typically have a fair bit of data, but may not have the capacity and resources and skills to use it with you, the data professionals, enthusiasts who volunteer your time to help those organizations. And the Calgary chapter is one of 9 chapters across the country, from Vancouver all the way to Halifax. So we started in 2013 here in Calgary, 2,400 members, which is great. Has grown over the time, and it really just demonstrates the interest and passion and the nature of volunteers in Calgary. And we work in a number of different ways, which I'll kind of describe in more detail in a minute. But our meetups are the 4th Thursday of the month. And, have your friends join us on Meetup, be part of the group. And we have the national website there, as well as our Twitter handle. So I mentioned the ways that we work. Kind of our signature events are the Datathons, and we'll have these once or twice a year. And so these are with larger organizations that have a lot of data. We work kind of months in advance to help them curate the data and bring it into analytic environment and come up with questions and objectives. And then when we can, pre-pandemic, meet over a weekend on a Friday night, Saturday, and a Sunday morning. And we're really hoping to get back to that here soon. We also do smaller projects with partners. So they'll come into, they'll come into one of our meetups, describe their organization and their challenge, and then we'll get a group of volunteers, 5 to 10 volunteers, to kind of work with that organization kind of offline, and could be for a few weeks or a few months to really tackle their challenges. And then the the even smaller projects are the micro projects, which we'll be talking about today. So the Datathons, here's just a smattering of what we've done. You know, in Calgary, in November, we had an online Datathon with the Calgary Homeless Foundation, but you know, many other organizations, Distress Center, Calgary Foundation, et cetera, and of course, all the chapters have had Datathons on their own, and we've had a couple of national Datathons, kind of one of which is kind of going on right as we speak. So these have been great. Our data core, you know, partner projects, we usually have, you know, 2 to 3 of these in flight at any one time. So right now we're working with the Alberta Law Foundation and kind of wrapping up a project with them, and also wrapping up some work with the Calgary Cultural Mosaic Foundation. So stay tuned for news about future data core partner projects. But you know, we like every week we get new people, you know, joining Data for Good, and we always get pinged with questions of, you know, how can I help, right? So you can go to the next slide, Tony. And you know, how can I help? I want to get involved. I have a bit of time. You know, I'm excited about the possibilities of doing some things with data. I may not have a lot of time, but you know, I really want to get involved. And so, you know, essentially, we've kind of heard you there, and we realized, you know, our Datathons and our data core partner projects, you know, provide, you know, once or twice a year for the Datathon, and then the partner projects, you know, maybe 10, 20 people, that sort of thing. So we really wanted to provide opportunities for more people to participate. So this is the idea behind the micro projects, and I'll turn it over to Tony to take it from here. Go ahead.
All right, thanks, Jeff. So I'll try as quickly as possible. And I think we'll have a Q&A session afterwards if you have any questions. If you can't hear me too fast, please let me know. So just an overview of the, what a micro project is. It's a short-term project initiated and done by you, the volunteer. It's done for a social benefit or public good with a small team over a short time frame, 1 to 4 weeks, using any data and tool that you choose. And it's supported by a project coordinator and Data for Good. For the pilot, we suggest and we recommend that you use open data for this pilot that we are launching now, so that we'll have no issues with permissions or privacy or any of that sort, and every team member will have access to the data. So why are we doing this? As Jeff mentioned, there are a few reasons why we came up with this for you, the volunteers. It's one, so that you collaborate with the other members of the Data for Good community. You develop new skills, or you upgrade your practice. You also develop non-technical skills, so project management, communication, leadership, teamwork. I'm sure a lot of you have already experienced some of these at work, but here you'll be doing it with a team of passionate data enthusiasts. I think you guys work with like-minded data practitioners. You build and you can showcase a portfolio, and also you help grow Data for Good's data and knowledge. And also the most important, you have fun while doing it. Okay, so the selection guidelines. So as I said, you come up with the idea and you put it forward, but there are some guidelines you should be thinking about while you're doing that. So the project must it serve the community, it must be socially responsible, and it must have a positive impact. There are a lot of projects I know that you guys can come up with, but let us think about these three things while you're going through them or you're brainstorming. So in that light, Data for Good does not take on projects that that a commercial organization can do, such as implementing a CRM or anything any other commercial organization can do. We do not take on projects that have a commercial or profit motive, and we do not do anything that is divisive or has a political motive. Now we can do projects that analyze the census or elections, but it's those are acceptable if it's not politically motivated or if it's not divisive, and if there is a data champion assigned on the project. Finally, the project selection will be at the discretion of the core team, as there are other intangible factors that we need to consider. So going on, I'll go through the process step by step. So first of all, you come up with an idea, something that supports the Data for Good purposes. You fill out a project the form or the form. I'll talk about this later. And you include anything that you believe the project will need. You submit that for review. The core team will go over it and they'll contact you if they have any questions or clarifications or any help if the idea is not fully well formed. So then the team will make a go, no-go decision. And if the project is approved, we'll assign a project coordinator. I'll also talk about that later. He will contact you, confirm the skill sets or the requirements you asked for, and then you go on to the next step. If not, we'll reiterate and we'll try to make the idea better or come up with another one. So once the project is approved, the project coordinator will update the MPDB, the acronym we've given it, is a micro project database. We'll set it as live. I'll also talk about that later. And then Data for Good will advertise the project on the social channels. For this pilot, we'll be doing it on the Meetup discussion board and also in the Slack group. And then we'll send out a call for volunteers as you requested in the previous step. Once the volunteers start coming in, we'll forward them to you, the initiator, so that you build your team. And then when all that is done, you'll set up a meeting with your team and with the coordinator. And at that first kickoff meeting, you go over the scope, the goals, the tasks, the timing and expectation, and so on. And then so that everybody's on the same page, and then you start working. Depending on how long the project, if it's a 1 week, there's no need for midpoint tracking. The midpoint tracking is just if it's a multi-week project, we'll have a meeting in between with the project coordinator so that we'll know if the project's still on track, if you're still aligned with the goals and the scope, and if everything is in line, you keep going. Otherwise, you revise to make sure you're on the right page again. On the other hand, if you feel that you can't continue or something goes wrong, the project can be canceled at this stage. We don't want to leave it for too long and then come back later and you find out that, no, we stopped weeks back. And then of the project, I think we'll have a checkpoint meeting, make sure everything is complete and deliverables meet standard. And at this meeting, you have the project team. You summarize the projects, the results, where the data is, the deliverables, the links, and then the project coordinator will update the MPDB with all this. We do this so that the project is not just done and disappears into the internet or somewhere. So coordinator will bring that up with you, that you present your project at a meetup meeting like this, and so that we'll all learn from what you have done. So once that meeting is done, the coordinator will update the MPDB that with 3 things: if it's completed, if it's canceled, or if it's completed and continued. So we strongly advise that if you have a big project, we strongly advise that you break it into micro projects. That's why the name, and you can do these in steps. So if this project is one that is in a series of steps, you complete this stage and you move on and you open the next stage. So that's the process. The initiation form, or the input form, it's a form that will provide a link in the chat before the end of this meeting. It's basically where you put in your request to do a project. So the main things that you need to have there, it's a brief title for the project, what it's about, and highlighted in yellow. These are some key things that we'll need so that we can contact you. The initiator or the lead name, your email, and if you do have teammates already, you put their names in there. Otherwise, there's a check marks or boxes where you can request each team members and what skills you need. Description. So you describe in 100 words or less what it's about, what the social benefit is or the public good is, the estimated time also, what you need. So you can list out the skills that you need, volunteer. This before the end of this meeting. So one thing about privacy, we do respect everybody's. We'll ask the participants, whether the initiator or the team member, if they want their names to be publicly shared. Then it's with the project.
Sorry, Tony, yeah. Your mic is breaking up. So is it, can you use a different mic or?
Let me try that.
Yeah, if you click the arrow next to the mic icon, you can see all the microphones that are in your system. So you could still use your headphones and then just use a built-in mic if you've got one of those.
Okay, can you hear me?
No, yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, and then just for information, I posted that link to the Google form, which is the form that we'll all be using to initiate the projects. So please take a look at that. You might want to click on it and just have it open, and as we go through the rest of the meeting and when we're talking about project ideas later. Go ahead, Tony.
Okay, all right. Let me just. I was on the. Yes. Okay. Like I was saying, if you do want your names private or public, just let us know and we'll treat it accordingly. Information. There will be a document that will be made public. It's got a lot more information than, but we just want you to think about as you're going through right now and you are forming your teams. There are a few things I want you to keep in mind. One, you are the initiator is responsible for assembling. So it's your project, it's your team, and we'll support you, but you are the one that is responsible. If you already have a team, please enter their names, as I said. And if not, then any potential teammates will be forwarded to you. We will not the team, you will. We do recommend that you keep the team at 1 to 4, so less than 5, so that it's fully engaged and you have adequate time or adequate people to complete the project on time. So a couple of considerations, responsibilities. So division of labor is just basically who does what, how many tasks or how many parts of the project you want to separate into, who does what, who's responsible. For time and availability, look at how much time the project will take, and for each part, how much time will the parts will take, and think about how many hours you can commit a week or per day or whatever, and how much time it will take to complete each part, and then the sum of all that to complete the project. And will you be in time? Also consider that you will need, that's the initiator, to organize meetings, and so there'll be extra time for that. Consider your skills and what skills you will need. So whatever gaps, consider your teammates and who skills, and also the proficiency level. And also your learning. This project is part of the goal, something new. So you want to say, okay, if you don't have the skills and you want to learn it, you want to be on the soft skills side, what skills are you missing, or what skills do you have on project management, organization, presentation, or storytelling? This system is set up such that you can do multiple projects. So if you want to learn a new skill each time, go into it with that idea. Then also for tools, what tools will you need for the analysis? So do all the teammates have access to these tools? Is it open source? Is it closed? What's their proficiency, and what's their aspiration to learning with these tools? So those are the few things to consider. Like I said, there'll be a document that will be made public. It goes into a lot more. So what to expect? From our end, the project coordinator will be or data for good to your project. So one thing we will do, we're not just going to set you up on your way and leave you. We will communicate, we will clarify, we will respond, we will answer questions. So on the support side, the project coordinator will help you with the scoping, with team formation, and also removing roadblocks, any roadblocks that may be in your way. Throughout the life cycles, he'll make sure that you are adherent to the goals, the scope, the timeline, and he'll monitor the progress as you go along. During the meetings, whether at the beginning or the end or the middle, he'll just be in the background. He will answer questions and offer guidance. He's not going to run this for you. Okay. Documentation, will be updating the MPDB, will be updating lessons learned. And if you have feedback on this project or how this program is going, please let us know so that we can make it better. The closeout will document the deliverables, the data, any feedback, and will support you to get ready for the social media. So don't be surprised if you see your project your name public. We're going to support and make it advertise as much as we can. On your end, what to expect? Ownership and collaboration. This is your project, and this may be new. I know some projects that people have done. Usually there is a goal. You come up with this one. You determine the what, you determine how, you determine why, and you most determine the ownership, quality of work. So if we advertise this, we don't know how will be attached to this. Now, this is not a caveat to say, okay, this is your work can go far. We expect a high quality. Skills, what do you want to use? What do you want to teach? And what do you want to learn? So if you're willing to or looking to someone teacher, so we expect you guys to step up to that. This is going to be new for some people who've never done this before. For us, definitely it will be new because this is a pilot. So it's going to be interesting, it's going to be fun, it's going to be enlightening, and we hope that it'll turn out well. What to expect from us, like I said, support and help will be here. And of course, feedback both ways, and then presentation at the meetup. Okay, and that's it for my end on the project. I'll hand over to, I think, Jeff or David. Yeah, David. Sorry.
Hey, thanks, Tony. Actually, can you give me, can I just share my screen? Because I have a few slides to walk through. I can just sort of man the presentation the rest of the way if that works.
All right, it's all yours.
All right, thank you. Okay, so can you see my slide, Tony?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, okay, awesome. All right, thanks everyone. And thanks Tony for passing it over to me here. I just wanted to cover just a few examples of projects that you could potentially do, or not do, but that have been done and would give you maybe some ideas for what you could think about doing as well in the future. And so I would say, don't always worry about the scale of what I'm talking about here. You know, we're talking about micro projects. So the intent is that these are really small. And I feel like what I'm showing you here sometimes may be sort of the culmination of multiple micro projects together. You'll especially see that in, I think, examples 3 and 4 that I'm going to be going through here. So the first example that I wanted to give is developing a community development map. So my friend and former colleague, who's actually on the call here today, Michael, built this web app. And so he was interested in getting better access and providing better access to what developments are being done in a given community in Calgary. And so he built up this app that we see a screenshot of right here to really highlight what development permits are under review or being looked at right now in a given community, so that it's more easier for people to take a look at and sort of get insight in terms of what's happening around their neighborhood. And you can see here another screenshot from his site highlights where he got the data from. So it's all from data.calgary.ca, which is an excellent resource for open data here in Calgary, and pulled together a bunch of different data sources that are then ultimately processed and displayed through this interactive map through his site here. So I put the URL in the slide, and I believe we'll be distributing the slide so you can access that later as well. So that's just one example of what a micro project could look like. In this case, well, yeah, I'll leave it at that. So let's go to the second one. The second example is actually from my colleague as well. So props to Michael, and thank you again for letting me use your examples. This one's pretty simple. This one is just a Twitter bot. So in this case, they were interested in sharing bike counts in Calgary, which are being made available as well, but potentially not as easily as you might hope. And so what this bot does is basically summarize the bike counts that are being provided by the city of Calgary, and then tweet it on Twitter so that it's more easily consumable and people can have greater awareness of what's going on in that respect. Again, you know, the scale here is pretty nice and tight, but as Tony alluded to earlier, right, a micro project can be sort of the seed that gets something else started after, right? So this project actually evolved into, you know, setting up a site afterwards as well called calgary.bike. In the meantime, it's been pulled down again, but you can see that oftentimes you can think of these projects sort of also as just the starting point of what else you can build on afterwards. The third project provides real-time bus tracking for 6 cities. And so this is actually a local example as well. One of the cities, as you can see, is Calgary. And so this is just a snapshot of the Transit 55 map that they provide. And so here you can basically get insight into bus traffic and get various information about the buses and how they're running across the city. And so again, another example of open data that's being pulled together into a live dashboard. And that provides sort of a tool for people that they can consume. And you know, earlier on, I mentioned that the scope and the scale of these projects is not necessarily reflective of micro projects. And I think this is a good example, right? I think it takes quite a bit of work and effort to get here. So don't feel like you need to get it to this point in one micro project, but rather, you know, think about how these people might have started, right? So they might have started by just taking, okay, I want to know what bus data is being made available in Calgary, and can I put that on a map on my laptop, right? And that might have been the first micro project. So pulling that data together, cleaning it up a little bit, visualizing it on a map. Maybe that was the first 2 weeks, maybe that was the first 4 weeks. And then, you know, you can think about what is the next iteration? What else, what other cool things can I do with this bus data? You know, now I have a static view, maybe I can get it to update live. maybe I can put it on a dashboard so other people can consume it as well. So again, don't be intimidated or feel pressured by the scale that I'm showing here, because all of these projects started somewhere, and that's exactly what we're hoping for here as well. You know, if you have an idea, think about where you can start, and then who knows where it will take you eventually. And a good example of that is actually the fourth project that I wanted to share here, which was done in Chicago by a group called Jai Hack Nights, actually, and they have a really cool group over there as well that sort of brings together various data projects and actually works on them on a longer term period. And this is one of the ones that happened. And so what they did is they took E. coli levels that were provided by the city of Chicago at their beaches in order to try to predict what E. coli levels are going to be in the future. And so they basically, you know, in this case, what actually happened is pretty cool, because they built this predictive model. You can see here by the screenshot that I took, it actually does quite a bit better than I think what the previous models were doing in terms of how many warnings would have been missed at the different beaches here. So you can see missed warnings essentially really high, the precision is very low, and recall is very low, whereas the model that they ended up pulling together at the beginning does much better than that. But what's cool here is, so this started off as a simple project, but then eventually, again, through iterations and through ongoing work, it was actually adopted by the city of Chicago to help the Park District know when they should issue warnings at their beaches. So, you know, again, the scale here is much larger because this would have taken place over several months, if not years, and to eventually make it into an environment where, you know, the Park District can use it in some kind of a operational format, right? But you can ask yourself, how would this have started, right? And probably they would have started with some data and thought, hey, I wonder if you can actually predict that. So maybe the micro project here to start off with would have been, let's pull together some data. Let's think about whether we can build a proof of concept model that shows we can actually predict when E. coli levels are too high, to see if we could if we should pursue this further to build out an early warning system. And so again, the scale is not really applicable for a 1 to 4 week project, but you can think back in terms of how they would have started, and that might give you an idea in terms of how you want to start your micro project. And so just to summarize this a little bit and to provide you additional ideas, you know, you can think about maybe I want to build a dashboard on my laptop based on an open data set, right? In an area that you're interested in, that's has a social good outcome, of course. Maybe you want to develop a proof of concept machine learning model like they did in the E. coli prediction project that I just alluded to. Or maybe you just want to create a proof of concept data visualization. Those are all suitable things, ideas for how you could get started in this micro project on a very small scale. And the takeaway that I really wanted everyone to walk away with here is, you know, think agile, right? Like, don't think about what huge project you have to put together, but think about what useful increment can I start off with? So what can we develop during this micro project that will add value on its own? So then you have a cool piece that you pull together in this micro project, but that is open very much as well to iteration and expansion as you sort of take it through future iterations. Again, you know, I'll go back maybe to the E. coli example, or any of the examples really I think would be suitable. So an increment of value would be, hey, let's build a proof of concept model in 4 weeks, and that'll tell us whether we should continue trying to refine this model and work on this project. What wouldn't be a valuable or an increment that delivers value on its own would be to you know, spend the 4 weeks just trying to get the data perfect, maybe, or trying to collect all of the data, right? So think about how can I take some data, build something out so that I have something that adds value, and then we can always take it further into make it more complex or take it to further levels of detail beyond that. So I hope those projects are fun, a bit of a diverse smattering of ideas of what you could do. But really, you know, we're looking for you guys and girls to be creative here and just dream up whatever micro projects you can think of. And with that, I think, Jeff, I'll pass it to you. I can move the slides here as you like, but I think this slide here next is for you.
Yeah, no, thanks. Thanks a lot, David. So we've mentioned project coordinators. So we have kind of onboarded at this point 3 project coordinators, and so Ajibula, Khalid, and Kevin are kind of ready and waiting. So we're hoping to get a lot of project ideas coming out of this evening. Then we'll this is a pilot, so we will kind of curate those. If we have three good ones that are looking like they're possible, then we'll assign the project coordinators, and kind of away we go. If we have more than 3, then we'll just kind of build a pipeline of micro projects as we go forward. So next slide. Yeah, so I think we will just kind of open it up to Q&A. So maybe we can stop sharing now, David, then maybe you'll come back later to talk about the Remo.
For sure, that sounds good.
Okay. So yeah, so just to kind of review any or answer any questions about the content and how these things are supposed to work. We are going to be going into a session where project ideas will start to be formulated. But let's just see if there's any questions. So you can raise your hand or unmute yourself and as you wish. Any particular questions at this point? Okay, well, so feel free to ask as we're kind of going through it. I think there's a few ideas have been percolating. I know that we have one particular idea essentially has come through White Whale, which is a local analytics company, and they have a great analytics platform called DeepSea, and they are prepared to sort of issue some trial licenses to DeepSea, and then we as Data for Good, we have some great data sets, some open data sets that we've curated. One would be on housing, that's the StatsCan data set. So it could be a really great combination of using the DeepSea platform with one of our Data for Good data sets. I think, James, are you on the call with
hey, yeah, I can.
Whitewell? Do you want to give us a bit more background on DeepSea and kind of what it does and what some of the ideas could be?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give you a sort of a quick rundown of what the platform really is. So you could think of it as a dashboarding platform that accommodates like custom Python code. So whatever code you update or whatever code you upload or whatever data you upload could be visualized with DeepSea. And what that allows us to do, at least in some of the solutions we've made, is that, for example, you could make a model and have someone who isn't really familiar with Python access the parameters and kind of visualize the results of that on a dashboard.
Cool. So we'll be going into kind of this, this brainstorming session. We'll be doing it in Remo that David will be described. The cool thing about Remo is we'll have tables set up. So, so for example, there'll be a table that'll be for White Whale DeepSea for any folks that want to kind of gather on that project to discuss it, and then get somebody from that table who's interested to submit it as a project idea, and maybe you already will have participants. Okay. Before, as we're leaving Zoom and going into into Remo. If you have a project idea that you want a table for people to gather around you to discuss your idea, please put the sort of the title of your idea in the chat right now. And then David will transfer that to a table in Remo as we're making the transition, right? So I would invite you to just brainstorm, think about something that really excites you, you know, whether it's bike data or elections or food or, you know, all kinds of stuff using data that's readily available. If you have an idea, put it in the chat, and then within Remo, we'll have a bunch of tables that will just have numbers and some tables that will have topics. But we invite you to move table to table, see what's happening, formulate your ideas, and then use the link for the Google Doc to actually submit your ideas as soon as possible, so we can then launch these projects. So with that, David, you want to take us into the Remo intro?
Definitely, sounds good. So let me share my screen again here, everybody. I think lots of people already have used Remo before, but for those who haven't, I'm just going to give a real quick overview as well again, and then we'll be off to the races here. So I think you can see my full screen here. So basically, we're going to be sharing this URL with you in a second. You'll get to this landing page here for today's event. What you'll have to do is click on sign in to join event. So just click on this button, and then as soon as you sign in, it'll take you basically to the floor, which is sort of like a conference floor and has all these tables that Jeff was alluding to. When you arrive here, you can see there's lots of different tables. So for example, the Data for Good table here, the Deep Sea White Whale Analytics table, and then they're just labeled from table 2 to, I believe, 33 altogether. So when you arrive, basically just double click on a table that you want to join. And so you can see that my name here, David Chan with Data for Good, has moved over to table number 2. So it's really simple. Just double click on a table that you want to go to, and then you'll be in there. One hiccup that people encounter at times is that they enter the table and they're like, why are these people not talking to me? Why are they ignoring me? And the reason might be that you didn't turn on your mic and your camera. So down here, you can see there's the camera button. So if I click on this, it'll enable my camera. And if I click on the mic button, now people will actually be able to hear me. So make sure you turn those on in case you feel like you're being ignored there for the first little bit. That's a minor hiccup that people encounter at times. Also, the other thing is at times, if you can't enable your mic or your camera, you might just have to shut down your browser again and turn it back on again to enable the permissions that Remo is allowed to use your mic and your camera, in which case it should work after that. If you're still having problems, feel free to ping us on the Data for Good Slack channel or send us an email and we can help you with that. The other thing I wanted to point out, there are 2 floors to this, just because we didn't know how many people we'll have. So in case you can't find the table you're looking for, it might be on another floor. So if I click here on the left-hand side, table 1 or 2, it'll take me to floor 1 or 2. Right now I'm on the 2nd floor. There is still a Data for Good table here, but the other tables are all sort of unique and you'll only be able to find them on 1 floor. And lastly, I'll just reiterate what Jeff was mentioning. If you want to have a theme to one of your tables, I'm the only one who can relabel tables. Just let me know. You can use it in the chat here. So you can chat with everybody, put it in the general chat, excuse me. You can, for example, put like, I'm at table 3 and I'm going to talk about, I don't know, this is on my mind, using bike data to build something, right? So, and then if you share that with me in the with everybody in the general chat, I will then go ahead and update the table name so that everybody can see what the theme is at that table, and so they can choose which tables to join. But like Jeff said, we really encourage everybody to just bounce around as well, get inspired by the conversations that are happening, and see if you can land on a topic that you're interested in. So with that, Jeff, I think if there's nothing else, I will paste this link into the chat.
Yeah, maybe you can just stop sharing, David, and we'll just answer any final questions. And if any folks want to, kind of pitch something in this forum, I know Ross, you wanted to say a few words about the Civic Compass.
Yeah, this is a project that I'm working on in conjunction with other civic techs across the country, but looking for people who are more on the data science side and development side at the moment. So the idea is taking, if anyone here has used Vote Compass, the federal elections app, it's kind of making an equivalent version that could be redeployed and used in cities around the country, then getting data sets from those sorts of surveys and informations, engaging with the public, and then being able to provide those open data sets long term.
Cool. So we'll give you a table in there, Ross, so you can talk further about that and gather the forces that potentially want to work on Civic Compass. So
yeah, sounds good. I saw Joan put into chat environment/climate. I don't know if you want to speak to that, Joan, or have more information on your idea there.
Hi. Well, it's just an idea. I'm just interested. I'm on a panel for the role of geospatial and climate change, and I was just curious to play around with a little bit of data myself. Anything related to, I was looking at the open Calgary data, so rainfall, I don't know, areas of dryness or water levels, flooding, anything related to climate that could impact Calgary. I mean, floods, fires, you name it. So open to ideas.
Great.
Sounds good. That's awesome. So Ross and Joan, I already put your themes at different tables. So table 2, I put civic election app. So Ross, please join that one. And then I put table 4 as environment and climate. We can also have duplicate themes. One thing I didn't mention is that there's a limit to how many people can sit at each table. So if you can't get into one of the tables, most likely that's why. If that's the case, pick the theme that you're interested in, start a new table, and hopefully more people will gather around you.
Yeah, so there is a bit of a question around sort of the process, right? So tonight we're just gathering ideas, right? Trying to collaborate and brainstorm. So for a micro project to become real, though, it has to be submitted in that Google form, right? So that's the only way that the core team will know that it's possible. And then after this evening, and we'll try to recruit as many new project ideas as possible. But within a short period of time, the core team kind of decides which ones to go forward with. We advertise those if there's not a sufficient number of volunteers that are mentioned in the form. So we will advertise it and get more volunteers. When we have critical mass, we will assign a project coordinator, and the project will be launched. And everybody who's been assigned to that project, of course, will be notified. And then essentially you're on your own to work it according to the process that Tony has outlined, right? So it could be a little bit of time from tonight before we know what's going forward and that sort of thing. But what has to happen is if you have an idea, you have to submit the Google form. All right. So with that, David, we can with the link, we'll see you in Remo land. Thanks so much for joining this one, and we'll stop the recording at this point, Ross.